Welcome to VU Primary School. For those that are here today, the very ground you stand upon and the ground VU Primary was built on once homed the Kulin people. This group of cultural indigenes consisted of 5 language groups that live within the Port Phillip region. This I'm sure not a lot of you knew, and it is on that very basis that we at VU Primary are furthering the knowledge of current and future generations to make aware and carry on cultural traditions and history. To the parents, guardians and future students, I'm Mr. Watt, the head teacher of Humanities at VU Primary. I would like to enlighten you about our school's Humanities program and share with you the great educational opportunities your child can experience learning at our school. The goal of our Humanities unit is to offer students the opportunity to develop a deeper understanding and appreciation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, geography and culture before, during and after Australian settlement. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures cross-curriculum priority is designed so that all students can engage in reconciliation, respect and recognition of one of the world's oldest continuous living cultures. In reference to human and social sciences, Australian curriculum, students will attempt to broaden their knowledge whilst developing inquiry skills required in all aspects of learning. Learning content will be delivered cross-curriculum, focusing on educating and exploring 3 main concepts: country, place, peoples and culture. These will be explored through mapping, group projects, show and tell, and even stories written and shared. This allows Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islander students to see themselves, their identities, and culture reflected in the learning areas and allow them to fully participate and build self-esteem. The delivery of our Humanities course will initially focus on the differences of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander geography before and after settlement, enabling students the opportunity to pose questions, listen, and contribute in discussions with each of their peers. As well, reproduce and express their learning of relevant information to the course through the arts, such as performances and drawing. This approach aims to prepare students to evaluate and reflect on their learning to help them endeavour in the future. Our Humanities course consists of many fun, interesting and profound classes. Deeper understanding and learning is also provided by excursions to the Melbourne Museum to visit Bunjalaka and the Melbourne exhibits. Learning through the place will give students an interactive and enjoyable experience that they will remember in the future. Students will have the opportunity to discuss, question and communicate their understanding of what they will be learning or what they have learnt. Teachers will observe how students develop their understandings and new ideas in class and during on-site visits to ensure great learning experiences. Our objective at VU Primary is to facilitate the development of students' knowledge that will broaden their acceptance of others. In addition, providing detailed historical and cultural evidence that allows students to draw a comparison across cultures. Students' learning will be spread across multiple learning areas. Humanities and social sciences will be approached with the use of visual arts, English, IT, and dance interpretive, but also numeracy, geography, and of course history. Allowing students to maximize creativity through a variety of paths gives them individual responsibility to push their own learning. The conclusion of our Humanities unit will involve a celebration towards students for their efforts. Students will base a creative work off a chosen artifact observed from their teachings, then create, evaluate, and explain their creative piece in class celebration of past and present. The targeted curriculum falls under the broad topics of historical knowledge, geographical knowledge, understanding, and inquiry skills. Our aim is to be diverse in cultural learning and to develop students' understanding, knowledge, and future learning to respect and reconcile both Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It is an important value of VU Primary that we ensure that students will have fun whilst experiencing new skills and learning wonderful knowledge.
Our classes are designed to provide insight into the experience and perspective of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We are attempting to get students to dig deep and think critically about Indigenous history and culture, and deeply understand how past and present perspective of both settlers and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people reflect upon Indigenous people, our community and society. As teachers, we are aware that teaching and learning of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history and culture in the past has been ignorant of Indigenous perspectives. We as a school hope to offer Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students an opportunity to see themselves in the teaching of perspectives and reflect upon the hardships of Indigenous people. We believe that deepening all students' understanding of Indigenous perspectives in history will help reconcile Australian humanities and further cultural understanding. At VU Primary, we believe teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives through local stories and history. It is more relevant to all students. We engage students in activities and learning which have been confirmed relevant and true by local Indigenous elders through our community connections. With the assistance of teachers and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community members, students will explore perspectives through dreamline stories, historical recollections, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander difficulties in oppression, and the impact and relation of these themes on current Australian humanities. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander is very important to us as teachers, and likewise, teaching humanities is of equal importance. We want our students to develop an understanding of both Indigenous and settler perspectives. Our school offers a community program where local Indigenous leaders and community members come to a school to talk about and share experiences from local stories, history, geography and knowledge. The intention of this program is to capture the rich culture of our community and ensure legitimate learning of both settler and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives.
Pedagogy refers to the method of teaching, as many teachers have different ways of teaching and many students have different ways of learning. This means that as teachers at VU Primary, we need to cater for each of our students' needs, providing different techniques of teaching so that they can all learn and feel comfortable. I'm just going to briefly give a pedagogical explanation of teaching within our Year 3 Humanities curriculum. One way of making sure that we can cater for all of our students and their learning types is the multiple intelligence theory. The multiple intelligence theory was developed in 1983 by Dr. Howard Gardner. It basically proposes 8 different intelligences to account for a broader range of human potential within our students at VU Primary. The 8 intelligences include naturalist, interpersonal, logical mathematical, spatial visual, intrapersonal, bodily kinesthetic, musical, and linguistic. Dr. Gardner says that our schools and our culture focus most of their attention on linguistic and logical mathematical intelligence, but in order to promote effective learning for all of our pupils, we need to take all areas into consideration, such as the dancers, the therapists, the designers, and so forth. The multiple intelligence theory proposes a huge transformation in the way in which our curriculum runs at VU Primary. This transformation is definitely a positive one due to the way in which it connects humanities to the way in which we teach it. For example, when teaching our students about the history of the possum coat, we may read about it. That is linguistic. Or we can examine pictures of it, and that is spatial. Or we could even write a song about the history of the possum coat, and that one is musical intelligence. I really hope that I have given you some insight of the way in which our VU Primary curriculum runs its humanity program with pedagogy and multiple intelligences.
Here at VU Primary School, we believe offering students the opportunity to learn through place enables them to link their learning experiences of history, geography, culture, and perspectives to the community and the world around them. Our Humanities program provides students with the opportunity to visit Melbourne Museum's Bunjalaka exhibit to experience Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, geography, culture, and perspectives firsthand. Each class is also offered the choice of visiting one of several other cultural centres that help students explore Indigenous recognition. These include Brimback Park in Keilor and the Koori Cultural Centre, and the National Gallery of Victoria's Ian Potter Centre's Indigenous exhibit in Federation Square. Learning through these place-based visits allows students to make connections between artifacts and class learning to consolidate their learning. For example, making reflections on the differences of Indigenous and non-Indigenous historical land maps. Learning will be facilitated to allow students to discuss, question and communicate their ideas and experience related to these excursions. Teachers will observe how students develop their understanding and new ideas in class and during our on-site visit. Students will use artifacts and experiences from place-based learning to develop inquiry skills by posing questions, listening and contributing with their peers, as well as by evaluating and reflecting on their experience to address the Australian Humanities curriculum. Students will develop a wealth of knowledge about Australian humanities from their excursions and share their different experiences with other classes to connect all of our students' learning. Local Indigenous members of the community will assist students and their learning during their excursions, resulting in further connections between people, place, and community. At VU Primary School, we understand that learning through country has widespread relevance to Indigenous communities, and will not only engage students in their learning, but allow Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students to see themselves and reflect on their identity as a learner. In reference to the AITSL Standards 1.4 and 2.4, learning through place is both a strategy to teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students and promotion of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. Student learning is based around our place-based learning, with lessons prior to our excursions preparing students through the exploration of history, geography, culture, and perspectives. Teachers will guide students to pose questions, contribute to discussions, and challenge their abilities to draw conclusions to relevant information. During their excursions, students will be challenged to analyse and interpret exhibits and places and gather information and connect their prior learning to their experiences. At the conclusion of our Humanities course, teachers will help students evaluate and reflect upon specific artefacts, their experiences, and learning by asking students to create a work based on their understanding of their recent experiences. Students are encouraged to approach their reflection by making creative pieces through visual arts, interpretive dance, writing, spoken or performed language, and computer pieces. These creations address the priorities of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cross-curriculum.
Assessments are used as an ongoing part of the curriculum to provide evidence of the process of gathering, analysing and reflecting the students' abilities so that we can make informed and consistent decisions to improve the future of the students' learning. To improve and deepen the students' understanding, we use a range of assessment practices for three main purposes. Assessment for learning is when the teacher gathers information about what the students know to inform their future teaching. Assessment as learning is when students reflect on their progress to inform future learning goals. Assessment of learning is when we as teachers gather evidence of students' learning to make decisions on the students' achievements against particular goals and standards. An example of this in conjunction with the Australian curriculum, evaluating and reflecting Year 3 Humanities, students must be able to interact with others with respect to share points of view, reflect on learning to propose actions in response to an issue or challenge, and consider possible effects or propose actions, and also draw on simple conclusions based on analysis of information and data, while taking into consideration Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' histories and culture, their significance in Australia, and the impact they have had and continue to have on our world. There are many ways to assess learning in humanities, but a great example for learning is by using the KWHL. KWHL is a fantastic way for us teachers to examine the knowledge and interest level of our students at the beginning of a new topic. This also assists us in assessing the students' learning at the completion of the unit. KWHL is broken down into four main questions: know, want to know, how will I learn, how will I find out, and what did I learn? This activity is a great way to focus the class, find out what students already know, and to develop and make an explicit plan of action for finding out what they want to know. This activity can be done in small groups, where students answer the questions on large pieces of paper, and the responses can be discussed as a class to create a base level of knowledge for the topic. We as teachers then use this information to focus on developing the students' learning and then reassess knowledge at the end of the unit. Another example for assessment is by using learning triangles to get an assessment of the students' learning. Learning triangles is an activity that requires students to use their senses and emotions towards a topic to reflect and examine their knowledge. Students have the ability to identify their own learning and identify where they need more learning and support from teachers. This activity is great for reflecting on excursions and incursions that the students will participate in, and this also engages them in reflection, questioning, and deeper thinking. At every stage of the learning process, students will be given the opportunity to celebrate their work. Students may show their work by presenting it in class sharing circles, displaying posters around the classroom, and they may also be given the opportunity to share their work in a weekly school assembly. It is an imperative part of the curriculum for students to share and celebrate the learning with others.